No.
All right, Doug, you're live and ready to go.
Thank you. Welcome to the Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020 Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Douglas Levy. I'm the chairman. I'm going to start tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those in attendance, I do ask that you check your electronic devices and make sure they're on silent or off. And please note the emergency exits. Our first application tonight is application 2020-124 by Mike Kozak.
Can we make a motion on the minutes real quick, Doug?
Oh, sorry, yes.
You can still come
I'll
on.
make a motion for the minute.
I have a motion
I'll
for the
second
minutes for approval from November 4th.
I will second that.
Got that, Heather?
Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
And we have one abstention. Motion carries. And then we'll do roll. Robert Peckham,
Present.
John Miglione,
Here.
Christian Chamberlain,
Here,
Beth Mossworth,
Here.
Heather Robinson is absent, Jesse Redlow.
Here.
Okay. Application 2020-124 by Mike Kozak.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can you go over the changes from your application from last month?
Okay.
What changed?
We're gonna build it 40 by 25,000 square feet. With the building that we have would be 1,160 square feet total on the 1,200. It would be a storage building with 2 garage doors.
Are you still keeping the other?
Yes, sir.
Did you submit for a second variance for a second structure there? We're allowed one, right?
You're allowed.
No, we are allowed to.
Structure.
Two accessory
Yep,
structures,
he's only here for the total square footage.
total square footage. So 1,160 includes both?
Yes, sir.
the existing shed you have is, what are the dimensions on that shed? Again, it's
I think
11 by,
11 by 14, I think. 11 by 14 foot 6, I think.
so you want to allot 160 square feet for that existing shed.
Yes. That's, yes.
And you're going to be 14 feet from the back corner of the house?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, because,
And do we have any I'm sorry, Christian, I tell you.
no, please, go ahead.
Do we have any understanding here, any pictures of what you're planning to build?
No, that's originally that we planned to build, but we changed our mind. It will be something similar to that with 2 garage doors and
How
Probably
tall will
no.
it be?
10 feet, 10 feet.
No, then the drawing on the instrument survey, where you put the box for the proposed structure, it's not the same proportion that actually, basically based on the scale of the drawing, this square actually would be larger. It would actually go into the leach fields. Is that something that?
No, it would not be. It would be just in front of the leach fields, like by 6 feet, I believe.
6 feet in front of the leach fields, because
Yes, sir.
this actually is only 30 feet from, the box is only 30 feet by, I think,
We cannot go by the scale. That's not scaled properly.
it's not scaled properly, so
No.
it is going to be it's going to be further away from the house based on where it is located on the instrument survey.
No, it would be, whatever says in the plan would be from the house. When we measure, it's like 5 to 6 feet away from the leach field. that we installed.
Right, I mean, the measurements, I mean, the numbers on here, basically, it says 14 feet, but that distance is only 8 feet. Then you have the box, which is 30 feet long from the long way, basically, but it measures only 30 feet on here. But, so actually, it's going to extend further deeper into your property than it
Yes.
is showing on the
Yes.
system survey. So if the leach field is in the proper place, based on the instrument survey, I don't see how the building is not going to encroach on the leach field.
I measured myself. I will be right in front of it. The scale is probably not correct.
So you say it's 14 feet off of the building, and
Yes.
then is the building 25 foot next, or is it
40
foot?
by 25.
40
40
foot
deep.
towards the leach
40
field?
deep, yes. Excuse me?
40 foot towards the leach field from the house to the leach field?
That's correct.
Is the 40 foot dimension?
That's correct. It will be, I measure myself, we like 5 to 6 feet in front of the leach field will end the building.
Mr. Kozik, do you have a copy of your approved leach field installation from the Monroe County Health Department?
Probably we have a home, we gotta go through all the
Definitely want to
paperwork.
look at that because that gives you exact dimensions from the house to the lines themselves.
I know exactly where the lines are. You can see them and I installed them myself.
Okay, I just, by my scaling, the surveys I have are scale.
Okay,
And where the leach field box is on the one survey, you're right at 40 feet from the back of the house to that box line. Now, obviously, the septic line, leaching lines are further in. We just want to verify that you're not going over top.
okay, I can bring you updated, yes.
Thank you.
Another question I have, you said there's going to be garage doors. Which side of the garage door is going to be on?
The south side,
And how will you access those?
from my property, from the south side of my property.
So you'll just drive over the lawn to access those?
We're not gonna drive on it, we're just gonna store the stuff on it for right now.
So do you plan on putting in a driveway to it?
No, sir, not right now, no. We don't know what's gonna be in the future, so.
So, sir, you just mentioned that you're not sure what your needs are going to be in the future. So is this structure going to be enough? You know, are you going to be looking to add later on?
No, sir. That's gonna be plenty.
It is large.
But you're not sure how you're going to access it yet.
Right now, I'm gonna access it not with the vehicle, by the foot.
What do you plan on putting in there?
Just the stuff that I have around the house. I have actually my father-in-law, I'm speaking for my father-in-law. We have a tractor, we got a couple trailers, we got just the stuff around the house. Plus we have some material from the job site so we can store it on it.
And will this have electricity or plumbing run to this?
No plumbing, electricity, yes, sir.
The other thing that we have to remember, just for sake of having it on the record again, someone has, I forget who it was, but they have put in that they are opposed to it. One of the neighbors from, I think, the south side.
490,
Is that south?
yes.
And their concern is a visual concern? Meaning the
No, his concern was the value,
value
property value.
for his house.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know what house, he didn't say that.
I think that's fair.
But he has 3 buildings around his house too,
Yeah.
so.
Is there a reason why you didn't move the building up closer to the front of the garage?
We can if it's needed, yes. No reason.
What are your thoughts on that, Doug? Just a
If it was
visual.
concerned about being in the backyard with the neighbor, by shifting forward more, it's more in line with the house.
Yep,
Makes it less obtrusive.
true. I would be more inclined to that than I would for the separated structure, to be perfectly honest. I'm not a fan of the size of this structure and the location, and that's my 2 cents worth on it.
I'm against either way. It's too large of a structure.
As it is right now, I'm against it too.
Any further questions from members of the board?
No.
No.
Questions, comments, concerns from members of the audience? Are there anything?
I'm not seeing anything online.
Okay, this application is closed and tabled for discussion.
We're going to talk about it at the end of the session today. So I would suggest having a seat and waiting for that.
Okay. Our next application is 2021-25 by BTDM Enterprises, Inc.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening.
My name is Teresa Blake. I am requesting a variance for a second building sign to be placed on the storefront in the Market Square Plaza. I am opening a Nothing But Cakes retail bakery, and there is no presence of that brand in the Western New York area. And I believe that the second sign will help people identify where the bakery is located. Also, the landlord for the plaza has not allocated any space on the plaza sign for me to identify my presence in the plaza. Hence, I'm requesting the variance to add the second sign on the north-facing corner of the building because it is at the end of the plaza.
Question from the board?
So, Ms. Blake, what do you feel would be lacking in visibility with only one sign? Like, why are you concerned that people won't see your business?
Because people coming from the Home Depot side of the plaza will have no way of knowing that the business is there without the second sign. Unless they're straight facing from the Jefferson Road view, there would be no way for them to know that I'm in that location.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other, to your knowledge, are there any other businesses in that mall that do not have their name out on the main sign towards the road?
I believe, yes. Edible Arrangements is not on the main sign. All of the smaller square footage renters are not on the main sign.
Does Edible Arrangements have a second sign as well?
They're in the middle of the plaza. They're not on an end.
How would somebody see them versus you?
They have the advantage of being over at the Starbucks end, and they probably get a lot of visibility from the people in the drive-through lane from Starbucks. I'm behind Red Robin, so I have the obstacle of not being really visible from the road, and only having one sign would make it even more challenging for people to determine where I'm located.
And do you feel that the sign that you're putting on the Home Depot side, which I think is east, do you feel that that is going to be visible from the road?
Not from the road, but from people coming into the plaza from the Home Depot side of the shopping center would have the visibility there.
Okay.
Any other questions from members of the board? Questions?
I'm sorry, I do have one more.
Huh.
The other facilities that are next door to you, and how large are they compared to your space that's rented?
So my space is 2,000 square feet. The next adjacent empty space is 3,000 square feet. And then Marshall's is the next tenant, which is huge.
Huge. And the other side of you is Home Depot, which is a space between you, but it's Home Depot, which is obviously.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Questions, comments, concerns from members of the audience?
I do not have anything online.
All right, thanks, Alan. Okay, this application is closed.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to application ZBA 2020-125 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has, 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change of the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties, as there are several locations around this business with 2 signs on the building. The variance cannot be achieved by some other means feasible, as there is no room for signage on the pylon sign in front of the plaza. The variance is not substantial based on the location in the plaza and the need to have a competitive advantage with this new business that isn't known in the area. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. The difficulty related to the variance was self-created, and be further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries.
Best
Was
of
that
luck to you.
Was that Christian with the nay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Our next applications are 2020, 126, 127, 128 by James Jarris.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is John Sharaba. I'm with Land Tech. I'm in here on behalf of Mr. Jarris. Mr. Jarris is also in attendance tonight and can answer any questions that I cannot. We're here this evening to talk about this 4.3 acre parcel located at the intersection of Pinnacle Road and Pacer Drive. This site is zone RR1. Mr. Jarvis purchased this property in July of 2019 in hopes of renovation of the house, the existing house, and develop a few lots on the property.
Excuse me, John, just to clarify, it's RR.
One.
There's no, they dropped the ones and twos.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Sorry about that.
It's okay. This will be on it for the record.
So in hopes of developing the property, he contacted my office this summer. We looked at it, identified that there's issues with zoning related to the number of lots he wanted to develop. As the code states, there's a 2 acre minimum for lots in this zoning designation. It seemed a little odd due to the development that occurred around the property. That subdivision was created in 1983, and at that time the zoning allowed 9,600 square foot lots, so really small lots, 80 by 120. This property has 171 foot of frontage on Pinnacle Road and 888 foot of frontage along Pacer Drive, and has an average depth of about 230 feet along Pacer Drive. As I mentioned, Mr. Jarvis proposed several lots, but when we looked at the code, we realized we could not do that. So we came up with a practical approach. One was to create 3 lots. Lot 3 would be the existing residence and outbuildings that would be at the corner. We proposed that lot to be around 0.8 of an acre. Lot 2 would be in the middle. That would have 300 foot of frontage along Pacer Drive, an average depth about 240 feet. And that lot would be 1.6 acres in size. And lot 3 would be the westernmost lot, 1.9 acres with another 300 foot of frontage along Pacer. I think that the frontage along Pacer is important. Our lots that we propose are 300 feet wide. If you look across the street on the north side of Pacer, each lot is around 100 feet wide. So we're 3 times the width and probably at least 3 times the area of those lots. We're also substantially greater in area than any of the adjacent lots, or really the whole subdivision itself. The average area is about 0.4 of an acre. You know, these are very large lots. We have access to public utilities. All utilities, gas, electric, water, and sewer are within the right of way of Pacer Drive, and we can easily access those. Drainage patterns to adult and will be maintained and meet town standards if we have the opportunity to go to site plan approval. I don't see any challenges with drainage or utility connections. But you ask yourself, is this proposal in the character of the neighborhood? And, you know, these large lots are really not in the character of the neighborhood. They're bigger than anything else. So, you know, so we're hoping that you agree with us that, you know, this proposal, although it doesn't meet code, does have merit. You look at the lands around it. There aren't any feasible methods to achieve the goal of 3 lots other than asking for a variance. So that's why we're here this evening. We feel that the request is not substantial. The existing parcel is 4.3 acres in size. We're trying to get to 6 acres. That's 28% deficient of code. But again, if you look at the character of the neighborhood, the original lots are much, much smaller, and these lots would be great. If the parcel is developed, the only question is, you know, are there going to be 1 or 2 lots? Mr. Jarvis is going to develop this property. If you had a chance to drive by or walk the site, you can see it's a heavily wooded property. You can tell that neighbors are taking advantage of the property in the ways that they're using it. There's motorcycle trails, walking trails, numerous amounts of debris. The parcel's been cleared in certain areas, so I can understand that the neighbors feel that this is somewhat a park, but it's really not. It is private land, and Mr. Jarvis wishes to develop it. So that's really where we are tonight. We're hoping that you agree that you see fit that the use of area variance for 2 lots will be granted. I don't see any issues on engineering to develop 2 new lots on that property. And we hope you see fit to review that and approve that. So with that, I can answer any questions.
Will you be connecting the existing house to the sewer?
That's a great question. I did not realize that it was on a leach field. I will review that with my client. He is actively marketing that. And in fact, his realtor, Mike, is here. So I don't think there was any intention at this time to connect it, but it might help him on his marketing. So I'll review that with him.
So curiosity question, when you said the lot was, or the property was purchased about a year ago,
Correct.
and obviously there's been some work done, it looks very nice.
Yes.
But it was purchased a year ago and the zoning was already in place a year ago. So
That
this
is
isn't
correct.
the house he had for years and the zoning changed over the past couple of years and that affected him personally. He bought it with that.
You're 100% right. You know, he did buy it in July. And to date, he's put around $70,000 into the home and the property. He's removed several junk cars. But, you know, he's not an engineer. He's not a surveyor. He thought, oh, look at the houses across the street. So his natural inclination was, oh, I could develop a few houses here. I think when he called me, he wanted to do 6 lots.
Sure.
And I looked at the code because that's what I get paid to do. And I said, well, you can only do 2. And he asked, what can we do now? So that's where we're coming to you to ask for relief in that manner.
And I understand that. I think, I mean, that's something we have to take into account when we're deciding.
Yep.
this.
I understand.
The other thing, 2 of the lots are very relatively close in size and I would say are small, lot 1 and 2, the way they're labeled on your paperwork. That's a relatively small variance for each one of those, but for lot 3, because of the new rules, it's actually a substantial variance. It's almost, you know, my poor math is saying it's probably about 60% of the, or 40% of the size required, and I could be off a little there. So that's a pretty substantial variance relative to what we're used to dealing with.
Yeah.
Improving.
And I can speak to that. You know, our intention was, you know, that home has been there for a long time, probably obviously prior to the subdivision be created. And forming a property line just west of that garage, you know, gave it a feel that, you know, that's the original lot. You know, it's still a big lot. That lot at the corner will still have 261 foot of frontage along Pacer. So
Yeah.
it's still substantial, but I agree to your point. It is the smallest of the 3.
Why did you decide on 300-foot frontage for lots 1 and 2?
Just wanted to make it consistent, you know. We have about, you know, I thought we kept about 30 feet off the barn, a lot of nice big lots. I think with the bigger lots, issues of development, you know, drainage patterns and things like that could be maintained. You know, maybe keep some of the natural vegetation with a bigger lot. That was really our only decision.
So there was no reason why you chose this, just the 300 feet is all, because that's how the acreage worked out. So
Right.
So it isn't that one of the lots could have been 2 acres.
You're 100% right.
It just would have been a little bit bigger.
I guess, you know, from talking to my client, our plan, if we fall short of our request this evening, would be to make application for 1 lot, for a 2-lot subdivision, for a new lot, and move forward with that, which would require no variances.
Yep.
So that's our fallback, but we really feel that this property, could support 2 new homes on it without any issue. And so we made a business decision to take the time and the extra step to come here and ask for relief.
Yes.
Other questions for members of the board?
Mr. Chairman, Kevin Wilson, Director of Building and Fire Prevention. I just have a question. Eric, are you on?
Yes, I'm on.
So the existing lot or existing home being under an acre proposed on septic, presumed with public water, they would actually be required to, in that case, it would be a 5-acre lot requirement for the RR district.
Okay.
So the question is, their variance is for that lot to be 0.784 acres, whereas 2 would be required, but technically with the septic system, it would be 5. So are they grandfathered in? I think since they're creating a new lot out of it, the grandfather clause would go away, obviously. Just want clarification on that.
All right, unless they planned on hooking that up to the public utilities at the time otherwise, yeah, I guess you're correct.
So would they have to be hooked up to the utilities for both water and sewer in order for them to qualify for the 2-acre lot sizes? Would they have to have already done that?
It could be a condition of your approval.
You can make it a condition, you said.
If it's condition of the approval?
So I think I'm asking, the real thought is that you're saying if they're not connected to sewer, then we have the other rule, which says 5 acres. If they're asking for these variances, you're saying they might need to either A, ask for another one, or B, hook up to sewer.
Correct, right.
And then we still have to decide what the answer is. If they decide to divide it at all, they have to ask for some variance somewhere, because otherwise they have to have 5 acres each property, or each.
That's why Eric is the attorney. That's why I brought the question.
That's the question is all I'm asking.
Exactly.
So they would need to basically hook up to sewer for the existing structure, and then they can do a division into 2 lots of each being more than 2 acres.
Without asking.
Without a variance.
Without
correct.
asking us.
Right.
That is,
So the sewer issue kind of threw me for a loop related to the existing house. But the proposed house, either 2 or 1, will be connected to public sewer. And I could defer to my client that if that's a stipulation of an approval, that we will hook the existing house up to sewer in some manner. We could,
Yeah, I don't know what the condition of, if it's an older home, so I don't know what the condition of the.
yeah,
septic
I
is.
would,
Failing, then there's no brainer.
right. Yeah, I assume, I'm right on the same page with you that, you get a house that's been sitting for a while, then a family comes in with 6 kids, and all of a sudden, 6 weeks later, the system breaks. So
well, actually, on Zillow, it says that the field's been recently cleaned and inspected.
yeah,
So.
Which is typical
it was
when it's
Typical,
for
yeah.
a
So
sale.
it is at least up to par, but
yeah.
at this point, it's still.
I guess I would have to defer to my client, but I think that if a conditional approval was hooking the existing house up to the sewer in order to get the 2 lots, I don't think that's a stretch. I think he would go for that.
I think, from what I'm understanding, it's to get any of the lots.
Excuse me?
If we don't approve 3, this is an if, we don't approve the 3 lots, you'd have to connect to sewer in order to make it 2.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
You
So I
can
guess
divide
that
it.
makes. Okay. I just haven't explained to him in detail the requirements of what that mechanics of that look like, but I assume that,
Right, because even though it's less than 5 acres, it's as it sits, pre-existing non-conforming,
right.
not a problem. Once you divide it,
Now it's not grandfathered.
now
It's
it's,
not
now,
grandfathered.
right,
Yeah.
and, correct.
Okay.
I understand. I think he'll, and I could defer to him, but I think that we'd agree to that.
Okay. I don't have any more questions, Doug.
Any other questions from members of the board?
I still think there's conversation. I'm sure we're going to hear from audience, but I still think there's a little bit of conversation after, but I have no more questions.
Questions, comments, concerns from members of the audience? Want to step up, state your name and address for the record?
I do have some online when you're ready, Doug.
Okay.
Do we state that also that we got a handful of notices, petitions and things of that nature?
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Ken Call. I live at 26 Edmar Court. My property backs up directly to the property in question. I probably have 150 foot adjacent touching it. I've submitted some pictures, some signatures from my neighbors opposing this. We've got 22 houses surrounding this property and about 45 people all opposing this subdivision. It's actually going to change the character of life we have in our neighborhood due to the wildlife and all that stuff. I've submitted pictures of whether it's coyotes and deer and all that stuff. They naturally track from Mendon Ponds Park up the thruway into this field and then cut over towards Barker Farm and all that stuff. It really changed things. Along with our property, the way the grading is going down to a retention pond at the end, any houses built on this property, or at least a couple of them, will then overlook our properties because they dug down on what used to be a farm field, and we're down 10 or 15 feet from that. And any properties now going on the new property or on the new subdivision would then overlook down into our properties. And they would really change the character of our neighborhood and all that. In addition to that, you guys have already been talking about the 5 acre versus 2 acre. And I submitted some paperwork today, basically questioning, is 5 acres, the greenhouse or the 1321 file 128, do they require 5 acres? And I believe they do. I looked at Monroe County's tax portal and it says their sewer is private. I looked at their real estate listing. It says on septic. And according to code, they're even applying for the wrong variance. They shouldn't be going for the 1F or F1. They should be going for the F2. It does require that many acres. And without that being divided, if they can't get that, then nothing gets built there. So
Thank you.
that's basically where I stand on neighborhood.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Good evening.
I think you,
Are you clean?
you didn't turn it back on, I don't think. Oh,
No, I'm just saying.
I can't hear him. No. Okay, my fault.
Kevin, are you
All
clean?
right, good evening.
Now I,
All right, good.
good evening.
Yeah, my name is Mike King. I live on Edmar Court with Ken as well. I've been there since the property development has been in place since 2004. Lived in Henrietta now for 35 years, raised my kids here. My wife raised her kids here, went to school here. We love our neighborhood. I don't even know if I'd call it a neighborhood more than it's more like an intentional community. As you heard from Ken, every one of our neighbors has signed opposition to this variance. We feel very strongly against it. I think Ken did a wonderful job articulating really the reasons why we oppose it. And I'll actually give you some additional information when I leave here to support what Ken said. But I think I'll just keep my remarks brief. I think there's two main things. First of all, I find it actually offensive with this applicant. And what I mean by offensive, they're already presuming that the property is divided, subdivided. If you look at any of the advertising and marketing that's been going on, they've already figured out, you guys have already approved this to happen. So that's why I find it offensive. I also find it to be a money grab. This individual, and you've already said it yourself, he bought this property knowing that it was zoned and the way it was zoned, yet bought it and purchased, and now wants to make a money grab and divide it into 3 parcels, 2 parcels, 1 part. I don't really know what he wants to do, but he's not from Henrietta, doesn't live here. He wants to get his money and he wants to run. So those are my 2 main points. And then I would just say that I really think this could be setting a dangerous precedent for our town. It's going to undermine the character, the nature of that whole area. It'd be a detriment to the neighbors, nearby property. And you've heard Ken talk about the wildlife. You're going to see some awesome pictures that you're going to, if you haven't had a chance to look at, that he shared with you off his trail cam. So we're actually asking you to deny this, deny the application, whether it's 3 or whether it's 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that sounded good.
Good evening. My name is Jim Kolb. I'm from Henrietta, New York, and I'm a business partner, Jim Jarris. I lived on Tobin Road for 20 years. I ran the Jack G. LaBelle Foundation, where we had a community garden of 4 acres. And if the project doesn't go as planned, we plan to bulldoze it and get a grant from the Jack G. LaBelle Foundation and turn it into a community garden and restart it with the people from the city of Rochester. And they would come down and they would plant gardens during the summer. It was a great project. When Mr. LaBelle died, the trustees sold the land in order to develop other properties they had in Monroe County. The property is being used by the neighbors right now as a four-wheel park. This is a satellite.
I'm sorry, sir. Can you step back up to the podium? We can't hear you.
No, that's
This is
okay.
a satellite shot of the property from Google. And you can see the rut marks of the four-wheelers. There's also 5 private entrances to the property from the people behind these homes. There is debris, piles of debris all over the place. There is no wildlife. The four-wheelers have abandoned all the wildlife. It is a very small lot. I lived on a 190-acre property right near it. There is no way that the deer are coming across through the residents' homes and sitting on this property. I also was experiencing that because we had a lot of deer on our property and hunters came all the time. And I can see where they would bed down. I walked the property twice this year and I did not see any issues with that. I feel that the property should be cleaned up and not create a hazard for injury or death, because you cannot ride a four-wheeler at any town park. You cannot ride a four-wheeler on a Genesee Greenway, which Mr. Jarris is a part of. You cannot ride a four-wheeler on any county park. And this private property is being mowed and maintained by these people behind us for their own personal gain. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Heather, you want to start on the online ones?
Sure will. I have Amy who made 2 comments, and I don't know if Amy wants to speak directly. Let me see. Let me allow her to talk. Amy, are you there? Do you want to make your comments yourself? She's not answering. The first question was, how does taking away the homes of wildlife make this merit? And the second one is, why is the owner allowed to advertise this lot as 1.7 acres if the variance hasn't been approved?
Okay.
What was the first one again? I couldn't hear the.
I was just gonna ask the same thing. I mean,
Not the wildlife.
How does taking away the homes of wildlife make this merit?
the homes
Okay.
of wildlife?
How does taking away the home of
Oh,
wildlife
home, okay.
give this merit? I understand. Thank you, Heather. What's the other one?
So moving on from Amy, the next person would be Mike Turano. Mike, do you want to, let me allow you to, you've got your hand raised. Go ahead, Mike. He's not letting me unmute him.
Hello, can you hear me?
There
Yeah.
you are. Thanks, Mike. Yep, go ahead.
I live on 40 Pacer Drive, and I was just wondering if this does get developed or does get subdivided and then consequently developed, what would be the effect on the residents on Pacer Drive as well as on the Edmar Drive, I guess?
Is that a question for us?
No, we're gonna have the applicant come back. He's taking notes. We'll respond.
Any
Okay.
other questions, Mike?
The other thing I wanted to mention, is along with the people who live on Edmar Drive, I'm also opposed to it, being one of the residents that lives on Pacer. That's just a comment that I wanted to make.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. The next person I have is anonymous. They asked the question, if neighbors are so inclined, could this property be purchased and used as a park setting if subdivided? And I don't know how to bring them. They're not showing up on my list to personally talk. So question for John Sharaba when he comes back up. Anonymous posted again, we live on Pacer, see deer, bunnies, and other wildlife. Agree that it should be cleaned up, but we should consider using it as park space for all the neighbors to enjoy. So that was the last of the comments. And then I have a raised hand. Jason Craw, let me allow you to talk. Floor is yours, Jason.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Hey guys, thanks for taking my time. Just a couple quick things. I am on the Edmar side of it. Definitely opposed to this. There is definitely animals and wildlife up there in the field, and we've seen it before. And squirrels this year specifically have been crazy for whatever reason, but I've definitely seen a ton of wildlife, or a lot of wildlife for that small area. Just a couple quick comments. Again, definitely opposed to it. The gentleman from Land Tech, and I did not catch his name, so my apologies for that, by his own admission, admits that the lots are smaller, and really that subdividing as requested definitely does not fit the character of the lots. Ours are much smaller, both on the Edmar side as well as the Pacer side. So to split those up into two-ish, we'll say acre lots, really does not fit. Also, there was a comment about people, and I apologize, I'm terrible with names. The gentleman who mentioned people up there in the field and doing whatever activities. I know there had been permission by the previous owner. His name was Dick, and I apologize, I don't recall his last name off the top of my head. I know there definitely was permission, at least for myself, to be up there in the field at various times. So there was permission. Obviously, there may not be now, and that's okay. But it wasn't like there were outlaws or anything crazy going on up in the field, kind of as semi-alleged up there. So I just want to throw those couple comments in there, and thank you guys for your time. And again, definitely opposed to that development up there.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right, next person I have up is Karen. Karen, the floor is yours. She has her hand raised.
Yeah, hello. Actually, Karen's sitting here, but this is her husband, Don.
Hi, Don.
We live on Pinnacle, but back up to this area. Been here since 2006, so we knew both of the prior owners. And while I don't really agree with people, bringing their grass clippings and things back there, both owners had given consent to these people at various times, because I had questioned it at one time and was told by both owners that it was okay. Secondly, I do object to anybody coming in here saying they did a walkthrough twice and say that there's no wildlife in that area, because I've got plenty of pictures of deer and fox and things that come through there. Have gone through our yards coming in across Pinnacle and stuff that will attest to that. And I'll be more than happy to submit those pictures if, who was it, Mr. Tobin would like to see those. I'd be more than happy to give them to him. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any others, Heather?
I'm not seeing anybody. Anybody else? Any last takers?
Would you like to come up and address the comments so far?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Sharaba again. I've taken some detailed notes regarding what the public has stated. I understand this is a sensitive issue on their end. They're obviously adjacent neighbors. Ken spoke about drainage. So I believe Ken's property is to the south and also Mike's property is to the south, and the drainage naturally flows from Pacer Road towards them. We are going to be mandated by the town of Henrietta Engineering Department to make sure that we don't increase any of those drainage flows to their property. So there's engineering practices that we can put in place if we're ever approved to do that. Creating a dense subdivision like Pacer is on the north side, this is only 2 new lots. So I don't think that we'd have a lot of impact to the drainage patterns. We could mitigate a lot of those measures. Wildlife. I'm an active hunter, outdoorsman. I love wildlife. But I also am a resident of Veronicoit, and I have houses all over. We have more deer in the town of Veronicoit than we do at Durand Eastman Park now. Wildlife, they migrate. I understand that they're probably in this area, but if the site's developed with 2 new lots, I think that, areas I'd talk to my client and say, can we leave areas to be maintained as they are? And we can develop a site plan to accommodate that. I think there's steps to do that. Ken mentioned 5 acres versus 2 acres. I had a moment to speak to my client. So we are committed to putting sewer into all 3 lots as required and as a variance is needed. Even if we go to 2 lots, we will still hook the original house up in order to meet code. Mike on Admar mentioned that he moved in when the subdivision was built in 2004. So I can imagine what that property looked like in 2004. It was probably consistent to what ours looks like today. Probably a field or woods, and the property people on Pacer probably said, what's going on here? So things change. Offensive about the marketing. I can't speak to marketing. A money grab. Business decisions are made every day. I don't think that's a function of this board, and not from Henrietta. I don't think that's also a function of this board. Amy from online spoke about wildlife. Again, I think we can put measures on a site plan. I'll personally work to that end to create buffers and things like that we hopefully can move through. Mike Toronto mentioned the effect on Pacer Drive. I don't think any negative effects on Pacer Drive will be implemented. We do have to connect to the sewer, so we will be connecting to some utilities. So there'll be some utility work in the road, driveway curb cuts on the south side, only 2 of them. I can't say any negative impacts to that. Jason mentioned wildlife again and said that I spoke that I'm creating smaller lots. I don't believe that's the case. I think we are creating bigger lots than the neighborhood average. So I hope that I can persuade the board that if we do move through this process, that if we get 3 lots, we have to go to the town for planning board approval. I'll work in the best interest of what the people have said, creating a design that might incorporate some conservation areas that we could do. If that would be the way I'd like to see it go. As Mr. Kolb said, there's other things that can happen. This is private property. They could clear it, farm it. I can't really speak to that. I'm just the engineer. So I hope I addressed most of the comments from the public. If there's anything I missed, please let me know.
I think that was all of them.
Yeah, I think that was all of them. I'd like to can I ask a question at this point?
Yeah.
So I'm directing my question to Kevin Wilson, the Director of Building and Fire Inspection. One of the residents who spoke, I can't remember which one, brought up an issue of the elevation and that a property from one of the lots could be overlooking their property. Is that accurate, Kevin? Is that something that could be the case based on these drawings?
I don't know what the topographical is out there.
Well,
I can speak a little.
John could probably answer.
Yeah, if you move, if you drive down Pacer and you go from east to west, where the existing house is lower, and it goes up about dramatic. I'd say about 15 feet as you move to the west. Basically, it's a hump on that ridge. It's a hill that comes off of Pacer, then drops back down to the pond to the neighbors to the south. So there is some grade change there. So if a house is built, it will be above the pond. It will be above Pacer Road, and there's really no way you can change that because it's existing ground.
So that comment about it could be. It would be so that resident who spoke on Edmar Court would have less privacy than what they do now.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
But again, I go back to the, if it was 1 house or 2 is really kind of where we are. If we propose to hook up to sewer, we could avoid the zoning process and you could build 1 house on that lot, clear every tree. I think Jim hasn't had a chance to speak, and I don't think he plans on it, but if you know the gentleman, he does not want to come in here. He's not a carpetbagger, doesn't want to come in here and rip and tear and leave the town. He does care about his properties. He owns a lot of real estate. He's a businessman. He's not looking to make enemies. So I think if we move through this process with a 3-lot subdivision, I think that future steps can be put in place, or actions, like I said, conservation easements and things to help out. And I guess that's all I'll say about that, unless there's another question.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for your
Any other
time.
questions from the board?
Thank you.
I have one more online.
What did she say?
Just one more.
One more.
I have an anonymous person asked 2 questions. What would the building requirements be? How far setback from Pacer and the size allotted for the new home build? And the second question was where would the driveways be on Pacer?
So right now, the minimum lot sizes would be 80 foot in width, which obviously we're well over that. Front yards are 30 foot minimum to Pacer. And the side yard is 10 foot on one side and 15 on the other, which I don't think will be an issue for the size of the lots. And the minimum rear setback is 30 feet.
Again, no. That doesn't seem to be an issue with the
No,
scale.
I don't, no.
Even with the.
I mean, they
variance.
could put in long driveways and push the houses back, but I don't see that.
Yeah, there's no intention to be anything other than, I think the houses will be put back a little further than the ones on the north side of Pacer, due to the fact of that slope, as I mentioned. But it'll be consistent. We're not looking to push houses way back and just negatively affect neighbors. So I think we'll meet all zoning codes.
Was there 2 questions, Heather, or was that 2?
Those are the 2 questions. I do have one more person with the raised hand. It's Don and Karen again. One second. Don and Karen, the floor is yours if you'd like it.
Yeah. One other question I haven't seen anything mentioned on. The storm pond that's in the back here, there's drainage on the north side that goes through through that lot area. So I would just want to make sure that somebody's taken the time to look into where that drainage is going to go.
Want to speak to that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
So I fully understand that pond is there. And if I'm correct in the assertion that property to the south was developed in 2004, that pond was put there for a reason, because they needed a New York State DEC permit for stormwater management. That pond, I'm sure, was designed to meet those requirements. It also allocated our design flows that come from our site to it. I would have to say that we should really rely on Chris Martin, your town engineer, and I'm sure we can work through those issues. They're really not an issue. We can't drain anything further off our more off our property than it does today than we do post-construction. Our development will be less than 5 acres, so we do not need a New York State DEC permit, but we do need to meet the town's regs. And I don't see that being a challenge with 2 lots.
All right, anything else from the board?
No.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John.
Allow one follow-up question per.
Yeah, just. Oh, you got it really good. Thanks. I'm sorry. I just had a couple other things to add. I wanted to respond
Say
to.
your name first.
Oh, Michael King. The comment about debris, I heard a couple of times on that, in that area. It's not debris, it's leaves and branches. If anybody considers that debris, then that's different the way that I determine what debris is, okay? And then I want to talk about the town code, and I have to read it to you. I'm going to give you guys a copy of it, but Ken may have mentioned this, I'm not sure, but I just want to make sure this is all being recorded, so I want to make sure that it gets into the minutes. Application should be denied for several reasons. Okay, first of all, Town Code 267-B3B. An undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. The application should not be considered for a variance on 2 acres because it seems the code expressly states that the lots must be 5 acres, and then I reference another town code here, However, if it is found that the 2 acres is correct size, the benefit of the applicant can be achieved by dividing the land into 2 parcels larger than 2 acres rather than 5, alleviating the need for any variance. However, at 2 acres, now the applicant then is going to be asking for significant reductions on the applications, like 61%, 20%, 5%. So these are all too substantial for a variance and would set an alarming precedent. I want to make sure that's in the record. Thank you.
My name. My name's Ken Call. I've already talked to you, and I was the one that said the property on top that's being subdivided or questioned to be, that will overlook my property and a few of our neighbors. There is at least a 15-foot embankment at the back of our properties on Edmar, which then will put those properties higher than ours. I strongly suggest you could pull it up on Google right now and look at their maps or the line drive. You can actually see this property and the height deviation in the back. And it definitely will be overlooking our properties. And that's one of my concerns as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Heather, one last time, anything on Zoom?
Yes, I just had one more person raise their hand. Lynn 2, floor is yours.
Yes, hi, my name is Lynn Tu. Hello?
Hello. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Oh, good, yes. I think John was mentioned earlier if they, that area got developed and all the sewer will be connected into the pond, is that right? Like all the drainage and sewer. Now, but that, we are the owner of the pond, so I thought that pond is belonging to us. It's a private though, it's not belong to town. So how can they just develop, let's say, put the drainage, just all the waste management into the pond? So
Development, if as proposed, would not affect the pond. They can't impact drainage across property lines.
okay, I thought I heard John mention that all the drainage will be going to the pond because the pond is privately owned, though it's not owned by the town, so they don't have the right to doing that, right?
I believe his comment was that it wouldn't affect the results of the water flowing into the pond, because according to what I heard him say is that it is a small change with the property adjustments that they're looking at. And if there was any adjustment, he indicated that it would have to be addressed by our engineering department to be sure it meets any regulations.
Okay.
And if you said this, I just want to be sure it's not sewage. I think I heard you say that it's only rainwater that he's discussing.
Okay, I thought he said the drainage. Okay, if it's okay, thank you.
Okay, these applications are closed. We'll hold for discussion.
Yes.
Next application is 2020-129 by Donahoe Management.
I just want to thank all of you guys. I'm Jim Jarris. I'm the one that owns the property there. Thank you for your time. I know how my neighbors feel about me now. I've owned several homes. I own the old Wadsworth Mansion. I fixed that up. I was really going to probably keep the lot for myself and build up there one day because I want to get rid of the big house. Jim does all the weddings for me. That's going to be his place. And I wanted to get into a nice community. But you know what? When I see a guy like that and that can walk out and say all those things, did I get anybody to say, Jim, you did a great job across the street? And here I cleaned up 20 junk cars, cleaned up a mess, and busted my ass in plain English for 2 years there, a year and a half. Not one person came over and said, Jim, you did a great job. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Okay. Heather, do we have 129?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Hi, this is Bob Winans from DDS Engineering. Can you hear me okay?
We hear you, yes.
Okay. So I'll be representing Down Home Management LLC tonight, and I'll give you an overview of the project of where we are to this point. I did submit a site plan and a landscape plan that have been submitted to the town planning board and town engineering department, just for your reference. And just as quickly as an overview, the property is located on the southwest corner of West Henrietta Road and Lehigh Station Road. Currently, there's an empty building fronting on West Henrietta Road that's pretty dilapidated. And then the property does wrap around to Lehigh Station Road, wraps around Wendy's, which is right on the corner, obviously. And then, and as I said, our property has frontage on Lehigh Station Road. And this Lehigh Station Road frontage is currently overgrown, and I believe there was like storage and different things going on and back in that area back in the day, and now it's just been abandoned. So, as I mentioned, we have submitted site plans to the planning board and actually have received final site plan and subdivision approval from them a week ago on the 24th of November. Everything on the property will be in compliance with the current zoning and required uses for the property. We also received a special use permit for a Burger King restaurant, which will be located and constructed fronting on West Henrietta Road, basically just south of the Wendy's and roughly across from McDonald's, but that'll be on West Henrietta Road. So we're here tonight to request a variance to allow a 5-foot wide landscaped area within our property along the Lehigh Station Road frontage. The code, which is part of the town code that was established, was requiring a 20-foot wide landscaped buffer, I guess, island that should be located along Lehigh Station Road. Currently, we were showing 5-foot minimum there into our property. We believe actually the hardship was created when the county took an additional 15 feet of right of way into our property, moving the property line southerly 15 feet away from the former right of way line, the sidewalk and everything else that's out there. So I believe this was all done when they did the improvements to the intersection of Lehigh Station Road and West Henrietta and added the lanes, drive lanes and such.
Was that prior to you purchasing the property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're aware
So
of the requirement with the property that stands there now?
pardon me?
You're aware of the requirement with as the property stands there now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I guess, and if you look at the properties on either side of us, which is the Bennington Hills townhomes, apartments that are just west of us, and the Wendy's, you can see where they put the 20-foot wide buffer from, a couple feet outside of the existing sidewalk, which is where the former right-of-way line was. So when they put their landscaping strip in there, that was where they put it. So at this point, since the county owns that 15-foot of grass area to the sidewalk, we obviously will maintain that area. We'll mow it, maintain it as green space, but we're really not allowed to put any additional landscaping in there. But we will maintain, we'll provide, and it's shown on our site plan, and we prepared a landscape architectural plan that's signed by a landscape architect and designed to meet the town standard, reviewed by the town's consultant. And we'll put trees, shrubs, special grasses all along the frontage of our development, So at least the 5 feet, plus we'll be maintaining that 15 feet of mowed grass area. And so we feel that we're keeping the intent of that green area that was required to be along the frontage along Lehigh Station Road. And, so we, in the spirit of that, we are still maintaining 20 feet of landscaped area and meeting the intent of the code. So I guess that's it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So just to validate this, the only variance you're asking for is the north side of the property on Lehigh Station Road, and you're asking for a 5-foot variance.
15.
I'm sorry, 15-foot variance, a 5-foot green space, I guess.
Correct.
And it does line up with, does that line up basically identically to what the Wendy's parking lot and green space looks like? Looks like it in your drawing, but I just want to.
Yeah, well, yeah, the edge of our parking lot and, yeah, right, you're right. Looking at it now, the edge of our parking lot and our proposed area matches up with the Wendy's, you're right. Yep. And then any of their landscaping is from the right of way out to the sidewalk.
Why can't you, what's your reasoning for picking this variance instead of something else to get the project to work?
Do you mean why we are proposing the project we are in the site plan?
Well, I know through design, you have various options that you weigh. And for some reason, you selected to go on this 5-foot landscape buffer instead of picking something else to get the project to work. And I'm wondering why.
Yeah, and there were some issues.
To protect neighbors' residential areas, and we have one right across the street. And so it seemed likely that a 20-foot buffer would be advantageous to the neighbors in this particular case, instead of allowing the reduction down to 5 feet.
Yeah, I guess we did look at options, worked with the planning board as far as maintaining setbacks to the rear of the property, setbacks along the frontage, and as well as to the west side of our property. So we worked out those setbacks and location of our buildings with the planning board to best fit the site. And really, to get the parking required, we needed to be in this location to make the buildings work. And there's quite a drop off to the back, to the adjacent property. So to make this kind of work out right and to get the buildings in there and meet the setbacks that the planning board agreed to and wanted us to do, that's where we ended up. And once again, like I said, I think we're not going to be changing the green space from any adjacent properties on either side of us. And, we hope with development of this property, we'll be adding extensive landscaping and all through the property, and should be a huge improvement compared to what's there now. Hope that answered your question.
Other questions for members of the board? Questions, comments, concerns from members of the audience?
I'm not seeing any online.
This application is closed. Discuss it. Let's discuss it. I agree. Table for discussion. Do we have anybody for application 2021-30?
Yes, we do. Bobby Jean Bryden.
And Rich LaFrance is also on, and I believe Peter Mars is on also.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped over Lefroy. I'm sorry, guys.
No problem.
Okay, Peter Vars from BME is here also. All set?
You're good to go, Peter.
All right, thank you, Heather. Good evening, everybody. I am Peter Vars with BME.
We're not hearing the applicant.
Pardon, you can't hear me?
No, you're really low.
All right. All right. Ha. Let me try. Is this better?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I just had to adjust the volume. So yes, Peter Vars from BME Associates, and as you heard, Rich Lefroy is with me also. And we do understand that the board cannot take action this evening because of the need to re-advertise it, but we do appreciate, though, that you will allow us to do the presentation and discuss the request before you. We are appearing this evening to request an area variance. And is it possible to share the screen where I could bring up the plan?
Yep, go ahead, Peter.
A little bit louder. I still can't hear you very well.
Okay, I apologize for that.
That's a bit better. Yeah, it's a good spree. Yeah.
All right, let's see. Here we go. So there we go. Good. So, and then everybody can see the screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So what we're looking at is an area variance to allow loading area in the front of the building for a proposed facility to be constructed on lot 11 of Wiregrass Park, which is this building here in the upper, or in this left-hand side of the property. Wiregrass Park, just for background, is a 69-acre business park that was developed in 2018-2019. Wiregrass Parkway, the street through here, is a dedicated road that connects John Street out to Lehigh Station Road, and the property is zoned industrial. MS International represents the first building to be constructed in the business park. It is a proposed 83,000 square foot facility. Now you will bring up the site plan here. A proposed 83,000 square foot facility. The building's about 393 feet long at its longest dimension and 233 feet wide. What MS International does is they are a granite and tile material distribution facility, and that's important as we get into the main reason for needing the variance. The layout has been prepared to conform to all of the setbacks, the 125-foot front setback and also the 60-foot rear setback. But it's a result of the operations of MS International, their interior operations, as to why there need to be loading areas in the rear of the building and also in the front of the building. As we mentioned, it is a long linear building. Their operations is they receive the raw material, granite and tile and all, at the rear of the building. And then it's through their internal floor plan and operations such that it leads to all shipping to be out at the opposite end of the building. And in this case, that's the front of the building. The docks being located in the front are not a matter of convenience. It is a matter of operations. Characteristics of the front loading area is that it is internal to the business park and to the business park road. The docks themselves are over 200 feet off of the Wiregrass Parkway Road and its right of way. And the site plan does call for a berm and landscape treatment to be placed in front of the loading areas. This berm on average would be 4 to 5 feet high, both in relationship to the road, Wiregrass Parkway, and to the loading dock elevations. In addition to the berms, the area would be completely landscaped with a mix of tree and shrubs. The shrubs do the job of infilling the understory of the tree plantings so that we can effectively screen the loading area from the front. As part of our application, we did provide per Town Law 267B the written responses to the 5 factors that the board needs to consider when reviewing an area variance application. That information is provided for your review, and it outlines why we believe that the benefit being sought for the variance weighed against is not detrimental to the surrounding community environment and whatnot. And we spelled that all out in the application, which we can go over in any detail. But that's a brief overview of the variance request and the need for it. Again, basically based on how MS International operates, and Rich Lafroy or I can answer any questions that you have.
Maybe one further thing to put a little color in there is that when we designed this building, we designed the showroom and office to stick out in front of, I'm going to call it the warehouse portion of the building. And we did that to help screen also the loading docks from the road, or from the side as you're driving in, I should say. So we've taken a lot of consideration as we do this.
Is there a reason that that building can't be sideways, 90 degrees off of what you did and still maintain their operations?
No, because within that building, there's 2 bridge crane runways that run the length of the building. So if you can think about it, when the granite comes in, sheet of granite is give or take 5 feet by 10 feet. It's moved across the warehouse area by the bridge cranes, and they function from the front to the rear of the building.
I think you misunderstood my question. If you took the picture that we see on screen right now of the building, is there a reason you can't turn the whole building 90 degrees?
No, the layout of the MS International is a large granite distributor. They have the internal layout laid out for every piece of granite as it goes down through there. So you couldn't have, it wouldn't be practical to have more than 2 runways of bridge cranes go down through there.
I think the reason I'm asking this, and I'm pretty sure we're not saying this, you're not understanding my question, I'm pretty confident. If you turn that building sideways, then all the loading docks would be to the side of the property, not to the front and the back. I'm not talking about making their internal operations different. I'm saying move the building 90 degrees, not the internal, the whole.
Okay, well, one of the problems that we do have, and this site plan doesn't show it, but there's a 50-foot Buckeye pipe easement on the north or the east side of the project. So there isn't physically a way to rotate the building 90 degrees.
Okay.
Any other questions from members of the board? Questions, comments, concerns from members of the audience? Are there anything?
Not that I'm seeing.
Okay, this application is tabled for the next meeting.
Could I just ask one question, please? I guess for the board's consideration, knowing we have to come back I think on January 6th is the date. It would be beneficial if there's any additional information that the board needs based on what they've reviewed to date and what's been said this evening. Is there any additional information that they would need in support of this application or to accompany this application that would assist them in rendering the decision in January?
One thing I can think of, actually, if you have any sort of like artist renderings of what the building would look like, get an idea as to perhaps what it would look like from certain angles, just kind of give us more of an idea as to how visible the front loading docks would be from Wiregrass Parkway.
Very good. Thank you.
Some of that effect, just kind of gives a visual of what the building would look like.
Good request.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Very
Yes,
much.
you too.
Thanks.
Okay, members of the board, please make sure you turn that application in if you want it for next meeting. Okay, our last application tonight is 2020-131 by Bobby Jean Bryden.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Bobby Jean. Nice. Yes.
Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Bobby Jean Bryden. I live at 2126 Lehigh Station Road. The address.
We lost your
application.
I'm sorry.
Anything to add to your application?
Nope, it's pretty straightforward. It's just the front porch, and the reason that it's
We can't hear you.
We can't.
We heard you in the beginning and then it went away.
okay. Is this better?
Yep.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay. I just wanted to say that when we envisioned creating this new entryway to the house, we were just basically envisioned the area where the grass meets the driveway and the sidewalk that extended out over the stairs just to be covered with the porch. So that's why it does seem to be significantly larger than just some new steps. And that it's all part of the safety of entering and exiting the house as well.
Questions from the board?
The front of the house from Lehigh Station, there's quite a bit of cattails that kind of hide the house from the road front.
Yeah.
So do you anticipate any visual barriers for this new porch?
No, I don't. It's going to be lower, and we usually take down the cattails every what do we do it in the fall? Usually in the fall.
Any other questions from the board?
Nope.
Questions, comments, concerns from members of the audience?
I don't have anything online.
All right, this application is closed.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to application number 2020-131 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, as the porch will enhance the visual appeal of the property. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative, as a porch is the only structure that can accomplish the applicant's goals. The variance requested is not substantial. The variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions, as no greenery will need to be removed to construct the porch. The difficulty relating to the variance was not self-created, as the former steps deteriorated due to climate conditions. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the variance as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by Bob.
Oh.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to go into discussion. First application is 2020-124.
Oh. Give me just a moment here. I'm, for discussion's sake, I am not a fan of the size of this structure that's going to be added, especially since it's separated from the building. I think it's substantial in the way that it lays. I do realize that that's slightly different than what some of the other neighbors have. And I think part of the difference is the way this property is lined up compared to the other ones, that my decision is a negative. I am not okay with the size of this facility they're putting in.
I'll just, for simplicity's sake, say ditto to what Bob said.
Yeah, I'm also a no because I just feel that it's, I just feel like we don't even know if it's going to go into the leach fields, where the leach fields exactly are. It's larger than what was indicated on the survey, but yeah, I think it's substantial. So I am a no for that.
What if the building was moved up closer to the house?
I think that's slightly better.
Huh?
I believe that is slightly better.
Yeah.
Also, we don't know what it'll look like because we have drawings
from a year ago that aren't going to be used.
Right, from a different.
And aren't to scale.
They're not to scale, the different, it may look similar perhaps, but we don't know it for a fact. So we don't know if we just, there's, I don't know what the 40 by 25 would look like.
It's huge, I know
But
that.
yeah, it'd definitely be huge.
It's over 100% bigger than the allotted structure space.
Yeah, they want.
Yeah, and I'm not comfortable with that idea in perpetuity of the property, approving something that large.
So even if they moved it up?
I'm against it, even if they move it up.
Okay, why don't you get to move it?
We have 4.
I have an extra one.
That's 3 against right now.
Well, Heather's not here, so it's a.
Are you for or against?
4.
4 now?
How about you, Beth?
Fine with it.
Are you for or yes?
I'm for it. It's 3-3, it's deadlock, so. Why don't we do this? If you guys are willing to give them another chance to come back with better drawings.
And adjustment to moving it closer to the home away from the leach field, as they said in testimony.
We need to know exactly where the leach field is. So that's.
I mean, we don't have a scale drawing according to what he brought in. I mean, there's a lot of factors in my eyes that this is a no-go, the way it sits.
Where it sits, but for the
No, way
size of
it's-
it.
I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of the size of it. That's really what I boils down to. I don't like that, but the other stuff is also on top of this.
Okay.
The mismatched drawings, in every aspect. I have no actual understanding of what this is going to look like.
Mhm.
I have no understanding at all. There's not one piece on this that is accurate to what they're asking for.
So they need to come back with a set.
That's right.
This is what we're going to build. This is where we would like to build it.
And I think, and the other advice that I would give is that it is something that is, as far as placement, I don't like the placement at all. So I agree with the stuff John's indicating. I would be more inclined to do it
If it was more,
if I saw what it looked like and I understood the other components of this.
so if it was more north facing, so
Uh,
towards the front of the house.
I think the front would be west, just for visual. I might be wrong, but I think the front is west. Oh, it's diagonal.
Yeah, it's
Northwest
Right.
It was moved closer to the house.
So if it was more up towards the
driveway.
driveway,
To be honest, I don't know that I care where, as long as it's close to the house, because I think that disjointed look destroys a huge chunk of that open space they have. And to me, I drive by it often.
Mhm.
And to me, it is I see why they need the space. They got a ton of junk and tools and other stuff out back. But I think it just would look terrible there. I would be so aggravated as a neighbor having that there. It would drive me crazy. Doug's point, they're not here to say anything. One guy was, on the phone last month.
Right, and they're not here, but the thing I go back to is, this goes in perpetuity with the property. So, what's the next homeowner gonna do with this massive accessory structure? I can't see my way to approving something this large, whether they change the placement or not.
Even though in testimony he indicated he wanted to put everything that they have out in this storage structure, which would then alleviate in some aspects an eyesore to those around them.
Even though,
Okay.
to me, I understand the desire, I understand the use, I can't agree with it.
I mean, I'm willing to listen to them again. I don't think it's gonna change my mind.
Okay, we're going to table this application for next month, asking that you bring back better physical documentation, better drawings of what you actually want to build, where you want to build it to scale. Maybe consider a reduction in the size of the building. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have these in then?
Yep.
Yeah, we gotta hand them in. I don't know what I did with my people.
That went farther than I thought it was gonna go.
Give me just a moment. Feel bad about that too, but
Okay,
I
the
don't
next
agree.
ones are 126, 27, 28.
Hold on one moment. So obviously, for this one, listening to both sides of this testimony, both the applicant and the residents that are around them, I see both sides of this. But the reality, in my eyes, is if these people that are the neighbors wanted that property to stay the way it was, they had every right to purchase it. And I feel that I agree with them. Like, I'd love to see it stay, more wild. But the reality is, someone owns this and they have a desire of what they want to do with it. Now, we have to decide if we want to let them break into 3 or 2. Obviously, they have to connect to sewer to make this work. Otherwise, it's a different situation that we're here for. And although I understand the earlier concern or the comments that they said that they could just do it without our permission, it turns out that's not true. So one way or another, we do have some zoning interference or variance required. I'm inclined to give it to them. I feel that it's in line generally with the neighborhood. I understood that there was comments that it's not in line, and I think the argument was a little odd in my opinion, because they were saying that the lots are too big, is what I heard him saying. If he broke it into 3, that they wouldn't match the neighborhood because the neighborhood's smaller lots.
What if it was broken into 2?
Well, I think that's a little better, to be honest with you, because I think it makes it less of a concern for us. As a matter of fact, it makes it no concern for us if they connect to sewer.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's the one, I think the best solution would be connect to the sewer and then divide it into 2, both being more than 2 acres.
Then
They
it's
wouldn't-
no issue.
Yeah, so they wouldn't come before us at all for it. That would basically, then it would be within code.
That would match code. And again, that's the other thing that I think is important to discuss. I understand Mr. Jarvis's desire to break this into 3 or 6 or 10 acre or lots, whatever he can do. The reality is he bought it when it was already an RR1, as it's labeled here.
Yeah, it's RR.
As already RR.
Residential, yeah.
So I think that's something that, and we've come across this recently in the past over there by the river, where it's not our issue that it was bought and not understood when it was purchased. Right? Doesn't mean I don't have any,
Right, it's like-
compassion for him on this, but it's not something that we did. It didn't change. I thought it was his when it changed, which gives me a totally different feeling.
My opinion, though, is that it's in an area, in a neighborhood that's already has smaller lots, so the subdivision makes sense.
I agree.
That those subdivisions occurred at a time when the zoning was different in that area. Correct?
I don't,
But
it's not out of character though.
it's not.
Right, but it doesn't mean that it changed, but then the change occurred before the current owner purchased.
It'd be a
the home.
different thing if the neighborhood was a 5-acre lots and we're coming in with 2-acre lots. We're coming into a neighborhood that has smaller lots. My opinion, I'd rather see them have the 6 lots to be in character with the neighborhood, but that's not the code. At least they're coming in to try to meet some of the code.
So 2 of these are, if we do 3, 2 of these are very close. They're small variances.
Right,
of
and
them-
one matches the neighborhood lots.
That's true.
So it's not out of character.
I'm inclined to do it.
But in testimony, they indicated it can be 2 lots. Connected to sewer would meet the code, therefore not needing
That is true.
variance. So that absolves itself.
That's true too.
I mean, when you're looking at that lot 2 with the natural swale to the drainage, if I'm purchasing, I'm limited to where I could put anything on that lot because of the drainage swale. What am I gonna do? Build a footbridge over the swale
How big?
to get the other side of my yard
Well,
without going for?
I guess the question is, how big's the swell? And I'm looking at the picture here. I mean, it's visible.
It's not invisible. It's right, I mean, it's right.
No, it is visible. I don't.
Oh, it is visible. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Visible.
Kevin, does the town maintain the pond?
I don't know if there's a drainage easement around that or not. It doesn't appear to on John's drawing here. I would assume he would have.
Because that one woman that was on there said that she owns the
Owns
pond.
the pond. I think that's on her lot. That's what.
But that doesn't mean she maintains it. Doesn't mean she doesn't, but.
Well, it's like
I'd
a
be
lot-
inclined to say that there would be a drainage easement there and access to that, but I don't know that for certain. You could ask the applicant. I'm sure he knows that answer.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a straw where we are as presented.
As presented.
As presented?
Yeah. What they're asking for.
I just don't go to 2 lots.
So not as presented.
So a no or a yes is what I'm asking. For what's presented.
I'd say yes.
No.
Yes.
No,
What if we did 2 lots?
We don't have to
that's
do
not as
anything.
presented.
That's not
Yeah,
as
we don't have to
presented.
do
We can't, you'd have to go before us again in order with
So it's a
different.
decline if we say,
This is only if.
But if he does 2 lots, he doesn't even need any, he doesn't
Right,
need anything. from us.
exactly.
that's accurate.
Right. As is, there.
He just have to hook into the sewer line, right?
They
Is there a
have to
question?
look at
If he
the-
wants to sell those as it is, yes, tap into the sewer line. Divide it into 2 lots, tap into the sewer, it's gonna meet its code.
That won't require us to say anything, but as it's currently being presented to us.
We have 3
There's
variants.
3, and right now that house is not on sewer, so.
Yeah, but that would be a mandate,
It would be
a condition.
a condition of the.
Right.
Of the seller to put it there. Because as it is advertised, it's not. So it'd have
As
to
it's
change.
currently advertised, yeah, which means that it would have to be done prior to sale.
That's, I mean, that's just part of the thing. It wouldn't go if they don't do it. But that's a stipulation. I'm not trying to,
No, it's just, as presented, no. Because in testimony, they said they could drop it
and so
to.
we're stalemate or dead heat.
I think that, as it's presented, I can't.
No, it's 4. Or no, you yes or no?
It's 3 and 3. You,
I was a yes.
I was a yes, you're a yes, no, no, no.
John is also a yes, right? You said yes.
I'm a yes.
Yeah, so
We're 3-3.
it's 3-3.
That's why we have 7 members.
It is.
Could we call her up?
He called.
Between breaths.
Call Heather.
I'm pretty sure.
Don't think it's a good time.
Phone a friend?
I think,
Rob, originally you said you were saying no, and you changed that to yes, based on the fact that you believe that having the condition on it is good for dividing into 3 lots as they currently are. So you would be okay with doing a substantial reduction for lot 3, which is more than 50%. Basically, if we want to say 2 is normal, I mean, it'd be great if this was 6 acres and they were doing 2, 2, and 2. That would be perfect. But the fact is, the lot that needs, the sewer put into it is only 0.7. Was it 0.7? Yeah, 0.78,
Yeah.
almost 8.
So if that became two lots,
I've been in the air on this, by the way. I was leaning, I haven't decided until I heard it, and that was one thing that I said when I started.
Okay.
And after hearing it and hearing the opposition and the benefits to the applicant, I feel that they're sort of balanced. I don't think any one outweighs the other really, and therefore I'm not opposed to it. I don't think it's a strong case for me on either direction.
Right.
But I do feel that I don't think that there's enough benefit to the opposition. I mean, wildlife gets changed every time anything gets built, period. And it just happens. And if you don't own it, if you don't own the land, you don't have the choice to say that. I mean, you have an input, but it's not yours to do anything with it.
I
The flip
understand.
side of that, I do think after hearing this and looking at some of the pictures a little more, I looked at this property, I didn't go into it. But I mean, it's clearly being used for the other people for their enjoyment. And although I would love to do that too if I lived there, I think, I don't think that's right. And so I don't really see a big difference. I mean, these houses, even if they're big houses, relative to these lots are going to be small. That's
Oh, and they can't continue to use it for enjoyment if they don't have the permission of the current owner, but they had the permission of the previous owners.
Correct.
So I have no issue with that whatsoever, because under the previous owners allowed it.
Right, there was their choice, and that's not,
That's not
that's not something that, that's between the owners if they want to allow them to do it. But my thought is that as it's presented to us, they want to have 3 lots. And even having, I just think the best option would be run the sewer and do a 2 lot. I think that would be the.
I always have a thought in my head, a business thought as well. And, I'm sure that Mr. Jarris bought this and, that house up front before, I saw the pictures from before on Google Street View. And it was run down. And I drove by it the other day and the work that he did to that property is beautiful. It's really quite nice.
cleaned up nice.
It's very nice. I mean,
And so
I do
he's
want to
done
say that I
something to.
look at the pictures both inside and outside. I was, it's like it is
Did a nice job.
It's a house I could definitely see myself in, actually. Not that I'm looking for a house to buy, but it's definitely, I mean, it is
Do you
definitely.
need to recuse yourself from this?
No, I don't. But no, it is a very nice looking house. It's,
He also,
anyway.
he also said that he was going to put it, can we ask?
No.
Oh, we can't ask. He said he was going to possibly build his own house there.
He said that's something he could see. He didn't say he was gonna.
Well, good see.
And the other thing is, he can do whatever he wants to that property, right? They don't want it built. The neighbors don't want it built. And again, I understand. But he could say, forget it. I'm just gonna wipe out every tree and I'm gonna put up a fence and it's, whatever, it's gonna be whatever he wants.
Right,
That's
but we don't
something
have to bless that necessarily. He can choose to do what he wants.
Yeah, from
This is
our-
where my issue comes in is like, I appreciate the work that he's done to clean it up because driving by it, I agree. It's spectacular compared to what it was. He's done a fantastic job. And that's why I was really on the fence with this application until hearing it, but listening to the neighbors. And then also for me, this is too much green space destruction. That does change the character of the neighborhood with the amount of green space that's prospected to be knocked down.
What about the valid thought, but my curiosity question for that statement is, what about everybody else who had the houses built on the street next to it? And I just drew a blank.
What is that?
What is it called here?
Edmar.
Pacer
Edmar Court?
Edmar.
and Edmar, yeah. Those were green space.
Yeah, I wasn't sitting on the zoning board when those were put on.
No, I agree with you. I'm just saying that changes all the time is all. And
It does
I agree
change all
it's
the
a
time.
Factor we should consider.
I
And
think
I'm-
it's a very important factor, when you listen to residents of Henrietta, they don't want this community turned into just house after house, business after business. The green space preservation has to be a big part. I mean, West Henrietta used to be farms. And I'm not saying that it was wrong to be developed, but I think now more than ever, we have to balance that. And I just can't get behind that many
That's
acres.
the only solution.
I just have to dig in on that.
No, that's fair. And I'm not.
To this whole thing.
No.
It's just.
I'm
discussion.
looking at that parcel with the swale going, purchaser, why would I want 3/4 of my lot that I'm not connected to? I can see that lot number 2 sitting there in limbo land for a long time.
Sitting there
You
what?
have somebody that's
Limbo.
honestly
Oh,
wanting to
limbo.
go in there and build something.
Better if the swell was the back of the.
Well, you're better off if that swale was like the dividing line between the two lots.
If you do a
Basically, the house would be, the swale would be at the back of the property of the houses.
Oh, I see.
And then the lot behind it would be.
Well, you'd still, I mean, I think that whomever, if it was put into two, whomever purchased the front where it sits on Pinnacle and whoever purchased the one that sits in the middle, I would want something that has a little bit more acreage to it. If I'm gonna spend the money on land in Henrietta that has water and sewer, I want land around me. I don't want people around me. That's
Well,
the
they-
benefit of having that lot. And I understand the benefit of, you can put that lot up for sale for 150,000. If someone wants to build a house right there, they're gonna build a house for that price, because space is priceless.
I mean, the other thing was the 15-foot difference in height there. We had the same problem, what was it, the preserve over off of East River Road.
Well, just as much as
When they built
people,
that new track and there, all those houses were up high.
I wouldn't want to look down into someone's yard either. So I would want to keep and maintain a line of trees. I don't want to see what Jim's doing in the backyard with his whatever.
Eric?
Hey, Doug.
Okay, we're deadlocked at 3-3. What happens?
I was wondering, if you might not want to suggest to the applicant that it would be within their right to withdraw their application and reapply in February.
Heather's not gonna be here in January.
Oh, that's right.
Can we table it till February?
That's why I said February. I mean, if it's deadlocked, like you said earlier, and you table it for next month and it's deadlocked again, then they'll be denied.
Do we table it for 2 months?
If we need 4 to move it, wouldn't it be denied automatically anyway? Wouldn't it
It's
be
not
denied?
automatic, but in 2 months, we would know an answer.
Right, but it would normally, we have to have 4 in order to approve any variance. We don't have the 4, so even though it's 3-3, it's still.
It's deadlocked, and what happens is it goes 2 months and it's an automatic denial. That's by law.
Okay, so it's deadlocked. Okay, so
So so we're gonna ask on the table, or is that your opinion?
No, he's saying his opinion is to withdraw the application and come back
In 2 months.
when Heather's back. Yeah.
should we ask them what, because they mentioned they're gonna put the sewer in. No, but mention doing 2 lots instead of 3.
So if they decide to do 2 lots, they don't have to talk to us about it.
Exactly. Yeah, they'd be like, that's their choice. It says land, you can do that. That says that maybe as long as both the 2 lots are over 2 acres each.
Should we bring the applicant up and ask them if there's any preference to this?
Talk to them to see what you can.
Okay, we're gonna reopen applications 127, 128, and 129.
No, not 129.
126,
26,
7, and 8.
128.
Catch that.
So we're in a bit of a conundrum here. One of our board members is pregnant and absent,
Okay.
and right now we're deadlocked. So there's 2 options. We can just leave the application sit, and then 2 months it would be denied. You can withdraw the application on your own and come back when the board member is present.
It'd be the first meeting in January, or is there 2 meetings in
February.
December? February?
Be in February.
Well, I guess either way we look at it, if we're looking at, it's the same result, correct?
No.
If you guys meet in February and we deny, you can't really deny it either because you're deadlocked. So in February is the meeting either way.
February is a meeting that we can that we can officially make a decision because we're deadlocked right now.
Correct.
And the other option that you have, if you've been hearing what we're saying, is you can withdraw this and say, I'm going to do 2 lots and connect to sewer.
Then you don't have to come back at all.
It'd be within
You don't have to
code.
come back to
So
it.
Yeah.
there'd be no
So I
need.
guess, let me think about this for a second. So if we withdraw our application, we can still be heard in February if we decide that we want to come back.
Reapply and come back in February.
Yeah, we have to reapply and again, if we withdraw, is there another mechanism we can put in place to postpone the vote until you have a full board in February? Because either way, we can pull our agenda, we can pull this application in January if we feel we want to change our business plan. But you as a board can't vote on it until February.
Right.
So if we
Because
withdraw
of
it, which costs him money, if we just postpone the vote until you have a full board, is there a mechanism for that?
Eric, can we table the application 2 meetings?
We could, we have precedents for doing that before.
Okay.
Yeah.
We would expect if it was tabled for 60 days, would that give the applicant time to connect to the sewer? So that would no longer have to be a condition if it was approved?
You need to do that either way.
Yeah, from our standpoint, and based on the information provided tonight, and I learned that the sewer is an issue, we will commit to, if the applicant is, the application as presented, the one added thing is we do commit to connect the existing house as well as the 2 other lots as part of our application, if that was a condition of approval of tonight's meeting. And as the board knows, if we pull our application and walk away, we have to go and connect that house anyway to develop anything. So we fully understand that information came to light. So I guess we'd like to postpone it or table it until the February meeting. In the meantime, I'll review the options with my client.
Yeah.
And if we decide not to come back, I will let staff know immediately and proceed that way.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Applications 126, 127, 128 are tabled.
And that means you want this
Doug, you want to mention until February?
until February.
I'm not sure if it's back in February. Are we sure?
Yeah,
Heather?
guys, I think it might actually be the March meeting. I'm gonna confirm that with Heather.
Okay.
Well,
That's why I make sure it doesn't get denied by default.
You have your-
Yeah.
you're picking it.
You don't.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time.
No,
You don't have anything to say about
no,
Donna?
that's our
Hall?
next discussion.
Oh.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
day.
I'm in the middle. I live on Pacer and I'm a realtor. So I have plenty of friends on the street. Jim's realtor. I'm selling my house. It's been quite the experience. I appreciate all the time.
Thank
If
you.
you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me. I've been in the community for 15 years. I see both sides of it. But I also see the fact that land has been used by these people for free for a very long time.
Yep.
And they have 2 houses. Good in the neighborhood. You got 2 nice good families in Henrietta. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Enjoy your
Have a
day.
good holiday.
you too, thank you.
Okay, 129.
Who's this one? Oh,
I thought this one had to be,
I'm-
because it wasn't advertised correctly.
no, they did advertise. So Heather said just before you came in that they had advertised.
She caught the legal notice before it was printed.
She caught it just in time,
So
yeah.
Oh, okay.
There was
I had
something weird
emailed her
on our
about it.
side.
Go
I
ahead.
thought this was, yeah.
This one
The
she
other
caught in
one's
time,
one
the other one,
that,
no.
Big industrial.
Oh, okay.
So this one with the 15-foot
Variance.
variance. The county already took 15-foot for green space, right?
They took 15 foot for the right of way.
For the right of way, which is considered green space. Right?
No, it's for the right of way. It's for roads.
They could turn
They
it
can come
into,
out,
Could be green space. it could
if
be-
traffic increases, they can come up and redo the intersection, so there's a turn lane right up to the property.
And so.
County could just do it and then be gone.
Thought on it. To me, that area, I understand why that space is needed, and I agree with the thought that Doug has. I think that everything they're talking about doing here is an improvement, but unless it fails, and then it looks like the garbage that's next to Wendy's now, or.
Well, it's that old Kenworth dealer, and then there's all the other crap that was done. Well, the pizza place is there now. I mean, they did that up nice.
Next to that church that's there, that Bible.
I ultimately agree with you, Doug, with that. With the fact that, I mean, they could make that change at any time. we've got residents that self-park in that. Right near it, I think we have to maintain that full landscape also. I have to be against this in the sake of public safety.
Okay.
But was that landscape area there with the business that was there, that's there now?
Wait,
Derelict that it was. What is there now is just empty space, whatever. What was there currently, or is there currently? Do they even have any kind of landscape, or is it just?
No, it's like overgrown.
Overgrown.
Right.
Not developed at all. Or maybe it was at some point, but it doesn't look like it.
So I don't think he adequately answered Doug's question when Doug asked, why did you come up with this as the variance?
The only
Like-
thing that I heard him say in that question, I'm not saying they should accept it, but he said there's a giant hill or cliff or something in the back side of that.
There's a grade.
There's a grade in the back, and then he also said parking too.
Yeah.
Because the grade, like I know, I think parking Wendy's, I can see that you're looking down to that there's a significant grade downwards. But that's actually not the part that's the part closer to Rustenburg Road. I don't remember exactly how much of a grade there is in the back there. But it's, I can't see, but it's basically, there is a grade, but it's, I don't know how, don't know. It's like.
Well, based on the site plan, I would say.
There's a grade that goes in.
They're able to develop a whole lot without. One continuous drive on it, basically. They're able to have one continuous drive aisle across the whole site, so apparently the grade isn't outrageous enough that they can't transverse it.
Because when you pull into Wendy's, you go down a dip to pull into the Wendy's there.
Right.
True.
Wendy's, to me, I wouldn't necessarily equate the same landscape buffer because that's more in the commercial area, not the residential area.
Yeah, it's across from like Gerber Collision or
Yeah.
and a hotel or Tim Hortons on the other side. Patrick. You know, and you're right, Doug, when you're pulling out of this parking lot, your headlights are gonna be straight into those houses.
Yep.
Would it make a difference if they, well, they can't have just one entrance and exit.
At least two.
The only thing they can do is take 15 feet off, off of that Lehigh side of parking spaces, right?
Basically, you lose the park, the row of parking spaces.
What are you saying, Pat?
This row of parking spaces that backs up to Lehigh is probably 15 feet, right? Or give or take.
Yeah, that's 20.
They'd probably put them into a variance for parking though.
For
If you
the
lost that.
quantity?
Yeah.
And it
They'll have
says
to
it's
redesign the site to get it to work.
And did planning already approve this? How did that happen?
Supposedly.
Yeah, planning board approved it last week, guys.
Did? I didn't see the notes. I didn't look for it.
All right, so what's the vote?
Well,
I'm also torn.
I'm torn because I don't like the idea of them pulling out with, with all the residents across the street there. I mean,
So, John, with that statement, if they change the entrance and exit, is that something that would change your opinion?
where would they change it to though?
Well, there's an entrance to the, I guess would be the east side. Where's the arrow there? The east side, there's an entrance between office, the 8,900 square foot office and Wendy's. And then it looks like it connects all the way down to what I think is going to be Burger King. I don't know which one's going to be Burger King, but QSR-A is what it's labeled. I think that's going to be Burger King.
So this is gonna be instead of the property that's over near the Motel 8
Yes.
or Motel 6. whatever it is.
So, yeah, it looks like they moved that. Oh, you were, yeah. So, what are the rules for the entrances? Does there have to be two there, Kevin?
On Lehigh?
On Lehigh?
I would imagine that, I don't know for certain, but you're proposing two. Plus the fact that the one going out onto West Henry Road, it's a right only to egress from there. So I think they wanted the two out.
I think Wendy's is the same way like that too.
Yeah.
You're right.
If I understood them correctly, there's going to be 15 foot of grass area. 15 foot of grass area that's actually within the right of way. The 5 foot, because the buffer should be beyond the road boundary. So that's why it's a variance for the 15 feet. So there's still gonna be 20 foot of green space there. It's just that the landscape area buffer that we require is only gonna be 5 foot.
Right.
So, I mean, yes, it's a variance, but there's still gonna be grass, 20 foot of green space
But
between
it's
the
no
park.
different than when we did, what is it? Down the street, the gas station right on the corner of Fast Track.
If you look at the note there, the highway boundary.
The right of way is, they have that big grass area. But they came back with a reduced green space because of how far the right of way comes into that intersection.
Yeah, there's not gonna be parking 5 foot of green space road. There's gonna, you can ask the applicant when he comes back on, if you're gonna reopen it. But there's gonna be 20 foot of grass, if you will, 5 foot of space that they can plant in.
What did we do for Patrick? Remember they had that same problem because the state took over more of the road there?
But they already owned it, right?
What? Patrick on the corner there?
Patrick's owned that for quite a while, right?
Yeah, that.
It's been more than 10 years.
Yeah, it has been.
Closer to 20.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It looks like Heather, did you see that note?
Which note, Kev?
That he just sent in for the online, that the westerly entrance is going to be removed for the approval.
Oh, yeah, that was part of the planning board discussion, is that the westernmost entrances will be removed per the county DOT traffic study or something along those lines.
Be removed?
The westerly one by, yeah.
Yes,
County
so there will only be
no
the one
west-
on Lehigh Station and one on West Henrietta Road.
Which helps because that's over more towards the houses.
So this one right here is not gonna be,
Correct.
Oh, so that was my concern.
so this isn't even accurate. This is gonna be basically just the one entrance.
Back to where we were.
And another thing to think about too, guys, the planning board, one of the conditions is that they allowed for reductions of the setbacks and the transitional buffers. So without the landscape buffer, if they have to move other pieces of the buildings because of the landscape buffer or anything, they're gonna have to go back to planning board because it might affect those side and rear setbacks and transitional buffer areas.
Where do you stand?
Because of removing that piece, I'm gonna say yes.
Removing what piece?
They're removing the westernmost driveway.
So that's this one.
Yeah, the
The one farther up here.
This will be the one here and the one down here.
Because of that, I say yes.
Well, this one shines right into Nula Collision then. I mean, or whatever that is now, Carver.
No,
This one over
that's not a house, at least, it's business.
Right, but that's not, yeah.
The concern that I had with that, after Doug brought it up, was the fact that I think those lights going into my house every time someone's leaving the property at night would drive me crazy. If that's not a factor, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah. As long if the only exit here is not gonna be shining light into people's houses directly.
But that's what the landscape buffer is for too, is to protect the properties across the street
I
from the
understand that.
traffic internal to the lot.
Right, but that, they can't do
If
anything
it's
with that
reduced to
15
5
feet.
feet, I don't think it works.
That still changed my opinion.
Christian, where you stand?
I'm good with it, but they're gonna remove that one entrance that's more residential. And there were no residents
You know, residents
back
were
up
here
to
to
Lehigh for this
think about
meeting
it.
to say,
No, to say no.
Did you say no?
Did get one phone call from a resident asking some questions, but they weren't necessarily opposed, especially because the entrance going off onto Lehigh Station, that's where the proposed retail and office buildings are, not the restaurants. The restaurants will be facing the West Henrietta Road. So theoretically, a lot of traffic would probably go back out into West End. I don't know if that helps.
Unless they want to go to the left, they can't make a left onto West Henrietta Road, and then they would go on the back and cut onto Lehigh Station to head out towards, I don't know, they'll do both, they'll do whatever.
Yeah.
Well, make the corner look better, I guess, if we do.
That's for sure.
Well, that's true. I mean, I like the fact this is actually going to be developed. That's the part of it has been the eyesore forever, which I'm actually very happy that something's being developed here, but I want to make sure that it's not going to affect the residential neighbors to the north unduly, which.
What do we stand at? Does he a deciding factor?
Am I the deciding factor?
No pressure. Chris.
No pressure, I know.
No pressure, but Doug's getting ornery.
I know, Doug wants to have his last meeting here. I just don't want you to go back. Oh, boy, I mean.
Careful what you wish for. It's
So basically, if I say no, then they have to go back to the planning board and look for another way to make this work.
Yep.
And if you say yes, it's deadlocked 3-3 and it goes 2 months and it's passed, denied anyway, so.
Oh, wait, so I'm either, so it's,
No, it's denied.
so no is another deadlock.
Yes,
What is
yes
this?
is another deadlock, no is a no.
3 no's and 2 yeses right
Did you say no? Okay,
So if I say yes, it's deadlocked.
Yes.
correct. You need that.
I'm gonna make a decision here. I can't even make decisions on my own.
You got to.
All right, I know, I have to. I would like to make sure that the buffer is as maximum as possible. I mean, the county can come down and say, okay, that 15 feet, we need to use it, and then we only have 5. And that's, I think, inadequate for that area. I'm gonna say no.
It's denied.
Good tonight.
They can-
You need a blank?
I think they can
Yep.
work with it.
This month.
are you gonna put these in the packs too?
Well, I can't say anything bad about Heather. I love her. She's wonderful. And I hope everything's going well.
She emailed me a few minutes ago. She's bummed she's not there. She is watching you guys online, but no baby yet.
Oh,
Maybe,
man.
yeah, I don't think,
She could have been on this call.
yeah.
All right, so can you ask her if she had her baby?
She has
She's not.
Not yet.
So how we wording this then? For that? No.
For denial.
See how deadlocked we are? We need you, Heather.
For the reason, for the-
Residential character to maintain the residential character of the neighborhood. Hey, Bob. Have you been called into any interviews? Okay. Tell him that I didn't get an interview. Okay. All right, all right. Back up, Heather,
Yes.
the last application.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to application ZBA 2020-129 for an area variance, I move to deny. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held public hearings, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefits to the application versus the potential detriments to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of facts. The variance will result in an undesirable change to the characteristic of the neighborhood or maintain detriment to the nearby properties based on the maintaining the residential character of the road. The variance can be achieved by other feasible alternatives if the driveway is moved off Lehigh Station Road away from the residential. The variance is substantial as there is residence across the street. The variance will have a negative effect on the physical and environmental conditions due to the driveways on Lehigh. The difficulty related to the variance was self-created as the placement of the driveways on Lehigh Station Road. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby denies variance as presented.
Second.
All those in favor of denial signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
We got Bob and Beth. I move that we adjourn tonight's meeting at 9:12.